Good afternoon and welcome to H3 TV, where I meet you every week to talk about challenges, changes, disruptions, storms, whatever you call it, we all go through them. And since COVID hit, I decided I wanted to come into your office and into your home and remind you that even in the midst of disruptions and challenges in our life, there's always hope, health, and happiness. I love to bring a guest along to share their story, their journey, and how did they stay the course, but not only survive their storms, challenges, and disruptions, but actually soar above them. Today, I have the pleasure of having Jessica with me to interview today. Please help me welcome Jessica to the stage. Hey, Jessica, thanks for
Hello.
us.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about who are you? What do you do? Where do you live? Tell us a little bit about all about Jessica.
Awesome. All about Jessica. So, Jessica is a little bit nutty. I am born and raised in California, and I lived in Tennessee for 20 years, where I actually spent a big portion of my career with Service Master. I've been in HR for over 25 years. Absolutely love it. After Tennessee, I moved to the wonderful area of Tampa. I am currently living in Dunedin by the water and living my best life right now with lots of paddle boarding and going out and walking with the dogs. I am very high energy individual, very passionate about the things that I love. It's somebody that is very much an early riser, very important to get, my faith-based stuff done in the morning, get a good workout to kind of get all that negative energy out so then I can kind of give my best self for the day. But that's who I am. I'm currently right now actually in transition for looking for my next role and opportunity. And I'm pretty fortunate that I get to take some time, right? And don't have to rush into anything to be sure whatever I choose is going to be like the best next step. So I'm just so looking forward to spending some time with you. Obviously, have time to share, my some of my stories with you. So just looking forward to answering some of your questions.
Awesome. Well, hopefully, Jessica, I'm going to see you at HR Society. I'll be speaking at that, and it's a great
Great.
place for networking when we're in transition. I
Yep.
am also a Florida girl. My home's on Fort Myers Beach, but I am living in the villages temporarily.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
so, when you think of the word disruption, what comes to mind?
I think disruption is something in your life that you potentially would not choose necessarily, right? I don't think when you think of disruption, it's not something that I think people wake up with and think, I'm going to choose this because I know it's going to disrupt something in my life, whether it's my structure, whether it's security, whether it's something that they've known for a very long time. So when I think of disruption, I think of something that allows you and requires you to go through major change and actually have to step back and take a look at maybe how you're going to handle something differently than you have in the past. Right. I really think disruption comes unexpectedly at times. And fortunately, if it doesn't, you've got time to plan it. But I think it's you don't choose it. A lot of times it's kind of thrusted onto you.
Yeah, I think of that too. I think disruption can like come at us, but I also think, as we kind of chatted earlier, like sometimes we choose to disrupt our own
Right.
comfort zone
Yep.
because we know there's something better. And I love that
Yeah.
about you. I was like, sometimes it's easier to stay comfortable, even if comfortable is not very healthy or happy. And so I love when people say, hey, you know what? I'm brave enough to disrupt my own comfort zone to
Yep.
become better and do more. So, what has been a disruption in your life that really stands out to you, that you're going through or have gone through?
You know what? I really love this question, and I know we don't have all day because I feel like I could talk about it for a while. But I do feel like for me personally, Annie, the last 2 years, I think I have chosen disruption for me. Does that make sense? And for my sanity, for my well being, and putting me first. So,
Mhm.
a couple of those situations was one about a relationship with my husband, right? Knowing that I chose to kind of take a period of my life to be alone and just to kind of be with myself to grow. And then during that time, I happened to take a new career opportunity, which I thought was going to be amazing. And it ended up not being exactly what I signed up for. And I gave it my best shot. I am not a quitter. That is not in my vocabulary. I think it's just how I was raised and the circumstances that you're thrusted into. So I don't like to quit, right? I'm very competitive. I want to do a good job. But I just found myself in a situation that was leaving me not feeling valued, knowing that I was personally in this position, trying my best to understand how I could be different, trying to seek input from others within the environment of, how can I go about things differently? And to be quite candid, I mean, again, I didn't give up quickly, but I found the situation not getting better. And I think a lot of us, right, just live in those situations for a very, very long time. And it was really causing havoc on my mental well being. And transparently, honestly, I gained like 20 pounds in a year. I found myself when I would walk into the environment just very stressed out and would like go to eating like immediately because there was lots of things in the office. Started to like second guess myself at night, like in my sleep, right? And just knew that it was taking a toll on me and it wasn't a good toll. I am very much a faith-based individual. I wake up every morning. That's how I start my day. And I really just started to lean in and pray about it and kind of ask for discernment and guidance on like, what am I going to do? Now, I am the breadwinner, right? I am the one that pays for college for my children and takes care of the family. So you can imagine when I made the decision where I'm like, this is not a good fit, I am going to ask to kind of part ways because I knew I needed to find something else for me because it was kind of destroying who I was as an individual. And I was no longer really able to bring my best self to work. And that's not good for anybody. So I made a decision, like in a relationship, to kind of walk away and have time by myself. In a situation where I was also standing alone and knew financially I was still the person that had to provide, I also decided to take a chance and have faith and step out of a situation that was not good for my well-being. And honestly, Annie, like 10 years ago, I would not have done that. I would have endured for a very long time and made myself and probably those around me very miserable. And I'm just at a point in my life where I'm choosing me, not selfishly, but in a way where if I didn't, I wouldn't be able to be my best for anybody I was interacting with.
Yeah. Sounds like a lot of wisdom. Like I decided what is best for me in so many areas, and it made you make a shift in your relationship and your career. And
Yep.
one thing I forgot to say to our listeners right away is feel free to write questions, comments,
Yes.
or job offers for Jessica in the
Please.
comments. We will answer them all, whether we do it during the show or after. We promise to follow up with every question and comment we have. So how do you've really stepped out, and I think it's going to be so scary to step out, and
Yep.
that negative self-talk can start. I love that you have a good morning routine, but how do you stay hopeful
Yep.
about your future when you're really saying, hey, I'm doing something different. I have been married a long time. I've been, working a long time, being the breadwinner, and I am choosing me, not in a selfish way, but in a self-care way, which
Yep.
is never selfish. It's self-full, because as we care for ourselves, we can be better partners, better parents, better employees and employers.
Yep.
How have you navigated to stay hopeful in the midst of this disruption that you basically have chosen that has really turned your life upside down? And I love that you're wearing yellow today. Yellow is
Yep.
the color of hope. That's the color of the sun is coming out tomorrow, no matter
Absolutely.
what today looks like. So tell us about what are some things you do to stay hopeful with a lot of changes and disruption going on.
Great. So I can kind of think of three things, and I normally try to keep my fingers up so I could remember what I'm going to discuss and talk about. So I think hindsight, as you know, is always 2020, right?
Yeah.
So when I moved from Tennessee, because I decided to leave that 19-year career and make the move to Tampa without a job, it took me 8 months to find a job at the positions that I was looking for, right? Being the head of HR, et cetera. It's not like you're going to find a job in a month.
Yes.
I actually think, Annie, that experience set me up with realistic expectations to know it's going to take some time and not to freak out if it doesn't come right away, right? And I'm going to place financially where I made some smart decisions and put a little bit of money away, etc. So I don't have to rush to find something. I'm not desperate, but I also had that experience when I first moved here to know it's going to take some time. Breathe, It will come, continue to work your network, go to the breakfasts, put your resume out there, and something will happen. Okay. So that really helped me a lot. Second, I think my daily prayer, right, that I do, and I talk to you about waking up at 4 o'clock. Like I wake up at 4 o'clock, I read my Jesus Calling, read my Bible. I have very much faith that I'm going to be taken care of. So I think knowing that gives me a great sense of peace and security that I probably did not rely on as much in the past. And of course, that comes with wisdom. I'm going to be 50 this year, right? So those type of things don't happen overnight. We tend to want to do things on our own time.
Yeah.
So I think that also helped. And then third, I am a positive individual. Really, I am. You could have the worst day, but there is going to be moments in that day, Annie, that you're going to laugh. You're going to smile. There's going to be something that's going to make you happy, as simple as just maybe talking to your child, having your dog kiss your face, right? I mean, there's always happy moments in every day, and surrounding yourself with people that will support you, pray for you, do whatever it is you do to get support and feel like you have people backing you up. There's just so many things to kind of help people get through these situations. And I lean on those. I have never been somebody to shy away asking for help. I don't care how much I think I'm an expert in whatever space. People need people. And that has really been pivotal. Pivotal? Is that a right word? Yes. In this particular time in my life.
Yeah, I love that. So for me, what I heard Jessica say, and I think this is important for our listeners, is she puts herself out there. She goes to those morning meetings. Probably not because she always feels like it, but she knows if she doesn't put herself out there, they're not going to come knocking on her door. So you put yourself out there. She has a routine. She has a routine that is faith first. And because of that, it relieves anxiety, right? We remember we're not in charge of our life. Somebody has a better plan.
Correct.
And she keeps a positive mindset. And I think that these are really intentional acts that lead to being hopeful about our future, even in the midst of that disruption. So I think those are really tangible. I would love for you to add those to the comments later. You know, those three things that whatever our routine, are putting ourselves out there, going to that breakfast, doing some networking, making that phone call, even when it's hard, when we're in transition, that's how we keep moving forward. And so I like to think about health. You know, Jessica, when I think of health, a lot of people think of physical health right away, but I really believe I owned gyms for 12 years. I had two gyms. And people thought physical health when they think the word healthy or the number on the scale, but that's only one part of it. And you already hit on your financial. And I love that because it's an area of health that I think not enough people do talk about or think about, but we have spiritual health, emotional health, mental health, physical health, financial, relational, career health. There's at least 7 areas of health. So how have you stayed healthy in this time of transition? And how will you continue to stay healthy? What are some of your tips for how you take care of yourself in whatever area of health matters to you? What are some of the things you do?
Thank you for asking that. So I do think financial health, obviously, during this time of transition has helped greatly as well, right? I think it would be much more stressful if I was financially strapped or wondering, month to month. But I do think it's important. So for all those out there listening, right? I mean, my husband and I have a certain goal of we are going to put this much away. We max out our 401k and then put this much money away on a monthly basis. That's something we agreed to, get it done, and then we can spend whatever. That is uber important, especially for situations like this, because life happens, disruption happens. You never know. The economy, the workforce is just a very different place right now. So plan. So if something unexpected does happen, you don't kind of lose everything and really go under. Huge, important, helps your mind up here as well with some of that anxiety to know that you're prepared. Absolutely. So, we definitely talked about me having my spiritual time in the morning too, very important. I also do work out every day. I went through something. I had my midlife crisis, actually, I think in my 30s, right? Where I started to very much have anxiety, panic attacks. And I remember my counselor told me, you need to move your body. You have to work those toxins, get your blood flowing, etc. So for me, you're right. I'm on exactly where I want to be on the scale, Annie, but I know that I do feel better about myself every day because I am making it a priority to move my body for at least 45 minutes, right? So important for me and my anxiety just on who I am as an individual to be able to have that done. And again, structure is important. Doesn't have to be in the morning. If you're an evening person, get it done. For me, it just had to be in the morning because I had children and also a very busy career. So if it didn't happen in the morning, life is too chaotic in the evenings. It just wasn't getting done. So you have to make time for it. So that's very important. And then also another thing that I do, which is very important to me as well, is that I also connect networking professionally, right? I think it's very important to get out there. And you can imagine if I wake up at 4, I don't stay out very late. So there's very few times I'm going to give somebody my time after hours. So I do a lot of breakfast and lunches and things like that. But you still have to carve that in and make it work. And then I connect with good friends, whether it's pickleball or we have dinner club, right? I have things that I can look forward to. I'm very much a homebody as well. I like to be home, but I like to have a few things during the week that I know that I'm going to go and do. And that is something that gets me excited. And I have something in a couple days like, oh, I'm going to go see a friend. We're going to have dinner. And it just keeps me motivated and just gives you something to look forward to.
I love that. You have so many great tips in there, Jessica. And I think sometimes people don't know where to start. And you gave us like 10 ways, like, right? Like even
Call
if
me. I will wake you up if you want to start working out. I mean, whatever you want to do, I would be here for you.
I love that. I love that encouragement. And when I first moved to Florida, I had lived in Minnesota for 40 years. And I was like, I have a nice, beautiful, large network in Minnesota. How am I going to infiltrate Florida? What am I going to do? And when you talked about being in transition, I remember going to my LinkedIn profile and looking up how many connections do I have in Florida? And I had 1,700 connections. And I thought, well, what do I do with those? What am I going to do? And I decided to write an email. And it took me 2 full days to send out this email that was basically, hey, I'm from Minnesota. I'm moving to Florida. I need friends. So I'm looking for friends, HR directors, event planners, and association executives that hire speakers or just need a friend. And I was amazed at how many people right away said, I'll meet you for coffee. I know some place you can speak. And I think sometimes it's just risking putting ourselves out there. You know, you're saying, I'm in transition, but I'm super hopeful and I'm going to take care of myself in the process and I'm going to do what I need to. But also something you added in, Jessica, that I think we have to remind ourselves rather than just spinning and running as fast as we can is you do put yourself out there, but you also take your downtime.
Yes, please.
You have the days that you're at home so that you can be your best when you go out there. And
Correct.
so I just think you gave so many important tips. And as a female that spent 9 years in the financial world, and I have so many friends that don't want to talk about money or know about money. And whether we're a single person or married, we need to talk about and know about money.
Yep.
We need to have a savings. We can be flying high, making great money, but life changes. So we have to be comfortable talking about it, knowing about it, and saving. So
Correct.
I so appreciate you talking about that aspect of health. When we think about, I always think through all the different lessons I've learned through owning gyms and working with audiences, laughter truly is one of the best forms of medicine. How do you personally stay healthy and stay happy and find humor and laughter in the stressful days? And when we are out there applying for jobs, we know that it can be exhausting. You can have 2 interviews, feel like you have it, maybe even 3, and then find out, oh, they're hiring from within. And so how do you stay happy and keep that sense of humor through all of those?
So I do think I'm a little bit of an odd duck. I think if you talk to any of my employees that have worked with me, I am just, again, very high passion. I think that when I leave any organization, I do get a lot of feedback about my positive energy. I've always been very, very high energy, very positive. I like to inspire. I think that life is short and we can be goofy. Like what you see with Jessica is what you get. Like I'm going to be the same person when you see me at the grocery store to right now to church on Sunday, working out, right? It's just who I am. And I remember actually, if I could just share this real quick, when I was, being groomed at Service Master and getting promoted, going up through the ranks because I started as a generalist. I remember I had a lot of female people, like workers, come and want me to mentor them. And a question that I got quite often is, how do you stay yourself and keep getting promoted? And I wasn't quite sure how to take that at first, right?
Yeah.
Because I just didn't change who I was. Right? I mean, I can't be anybody but Jessica. So you're going to get the goofiness of me. And I am just a little bit weird and goofy because I think life is short. And again, trust me, there's times where I am down and have anxiety and get depressed like everybody else, but I do know truly in my soul, I'm going to be okay. I know I'm going to be taken care of. I know it is all going to work out. Why? Because it always has. So I have the past to rely on. So the future looks hopeful because I haven't been let down yet. There's definitely been valleys, but I've always been able to rise out of them. So how can I not know that I'm going to find like my next opportunity right around the corner? It's just a matter of timing. And the way I look at opportunities, Annie, is that if it doesn't work out, I want to learn from it. I do truly want the feedback. Tell me what I could have done differently. But I also know it's because something is better out there for me. Like it just wasn't where I was supposed to be. And I think if you keep that mindset and don't let that rejection like really defeat you, then I think it's easy to keep that confidence and continue to move forward.
Yeah. I think part of your humor is laughing at yourself. Like I say, my favorite people that are like, hey, I'm messy and I'm silly and goofy. And if you like me, great. And if you don't, that's okay too.
Yes,
And
exactly.
that is such a gift. Like my favorite thing to do with audiences, get them to laugh at themselves. And at first, like, oh, I want to look my best. I'm like, really? Why? You're messy. You can put your fake edited image out there, but the truth is you're messy. And when you learn to embrace and like that, it makes it easier. And we can laugh with you and at you, and it doesn't feel judgmental. It feels like, oh, I am a goofball, or I am authentically who I am in all areas of my life. That's good, Jessica. I like that. So is there something that you, like a lesson that you have learned through being brave enough to create your own disruption or going through life's disruptions? What are some of the lessons you've learned that you would love? Somebody right now that's listening just lost their job, just got told their spouse wants a divorce, just got told they're diagnosed with something. What is the lessons that you've learned that you can kind of bestow on us, that you can share with us, so we don't let that disruption define us?
Oh, I just love your questions. I just love your questions. They're just so spot on, just right for what I'm going through in my life. So I love it. I think the biggest lesson I've learned, because I personally have had more I think obstacles than I have professionally, right? Sometimes I'm like, do you get both? Are you very successful in like your professional life and also get the relationship right? Or is it one or the other? Can it just be both? And so, there's definitely that. I think for me, and I wasn't always like this, but I think what in the past several years, of course, I think getting stronger in my faith has definitely helped. But I also, too, try to very quickly take a look at what are the lessons that I need to learn from this situation. I can't change the other person's perception, perspective, how they're going to act differently. Do not put your energy there. That is quickly going to take you down the rabbit hole that you do not want to go through. So I think for me in these situations, instead of taking a look at like my spouse, right, and focusing on what they could have done differently, I really started to do the work in myself. And what is it that I can do differently? And even in my last position, as much as the environment and the fit wasn't right, I learned a ton about ways that I could still be better as a professional in HR. And I'm thankful for that, actually, right? I think every experience, you can either decide it's going to make you better or it's not. But at the end of the day, it's a choice, and that choice is yours. So it is okay to grieve. It is okay to be upset, right? And have all those feelings. But then very quickly, you need to pivot and decide to take that and move forward with it in growth. And that is what I have decided to do as an individual. And I think that has given me a great sense of peace.
Awesome. I think that's wisdom too, right? Like rather than just being disappointed and angry about what didn't work out, we take a deep breath and we go, what can we learn from this? What
Yep.
have I learned and how can I use what I've learned? So I really love that. I think that's a sign of maturity, wisdom, life experience,
Yeah.
taking the lessons, not being bitter, but instead saying, what can I learn? Um, how, what do you wish you would have done differently? Is there anything that you look back through any disruption or challenge, could be the current ones and past ones, and say, what do I wish I would have done differently? Or is there anything at all?
Um, you know what? I think sometimes I think for me in any situations, I think that it's hard to seek out that feedback, right? If things aren't going as expected, because potentially that feedback could be negative, constructive criticism, etc. So what I would say is that I do think even myself, like I am eager to learn, but if there is, some individuals where I'm like, there's only, right, I'm not sure I trust the feedback. And so I think maybe putting myself out there a little bit more and being even a little bit more brave to get the feedback from more individuals, right? Does that make sense? Don't be afraid to get the feedback, right? It's just feedback. So you can decide what you want to do with it or not, but ask even on the way out, like, hey, the situation hasn't worked out, what is it that I could have done better? I don't think a lot of people do that, and I think that would really help in the situation. And I do think actually it might even help with closure quicker, because you're kind of getting that feedback in the moment instead of wondering and making assumptions. And I do think that when people make assumptions, we're human, it's always negative, right? So you can probably, if sometimes I think if you had the courage, if I had the courage to maybe like go to some of the people that maybe I was a little intimidated by, and asking for feedback in these like last situations, it probably could have helped me. And you know what? Maybe it's even something now that I'm speaking out loud, I could still do, because it's never too late. But it's never too late. So just ask.
So, Jessica, how are you using? So, you've had some life disruptions, but you are still positive. You're still moving forward. You're still taking care of yourself. How are you using what you've gone through and the wisdom you've gained to help other people? Who and how are you helping others with their own disruption and challenges because of your wisdom and experience?
That's a great question. So I get invited to do things like this with you, and I will always raise my hand. And I'm trying to be very mindful about what I am supposed to share in the moment, right? I don't take these situations lightly. It's really not about me highlighting Jessica. I really see it as an opportunity of highlighting something about me that potentially somebody else is going through that could help them. So I think I am in a position just in my career, you're right, with being in the industry for so long, I like to give my wisdom and spread it out now. So if I'm invited to be on a panel, I'm always, yes, absolutely. Like those things I would do all day long. If somebody reaches out to me on LinkedIn and wants me to mentor them, but I've never like heard of them before, it's always a yes, right? I think that when somebody is brave enough, like what you did when you moved, to ask for help, there's very few people that are going to say no. So I'm trying to take the wisdom that I have now and actually share it with others. And also too, for some reason, I do have young female professionals reach out to me quite often and want me to mentor them. So that's just something that for some reason it's just worked out for me. So I also try to give back in that area also.
I love that. I love that you're mentoring, and you saying that during this conversation, something keeps getting downloaded. I'm like, oh, I guess I'm supposed to share this. I don't know who it's for, but somebody's listening that needs this. But it sounds like you and your husband have reconciled. You are back together.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's a book, and I don't know if you've read it or not, but it's by Stormy O'Martin, which as I'm thinking about it, I've read it many times, but her name is Stormy. How ironic that her name is Stormy in the midst of storm. But she has lots of books of praying for your children, praying for your adult children. But she has a book called The Power of the Praying Wife.
I have it.
And yes. I remember when I first got it, you said something that made me think of it. I remember when I first got it, the first chapter is all about what I need to work on. And I was like, listen, Stormy, I'm not the problem. He's the problem. Let's fix him and then I'll be fine. And it just makes me laugh because when you read that book and you realize, oh, maybe, just maybe it could be me. Wait a minute. Isn't it everybody else? And I love that she really allows us to reflect on our own response to people, our own expectation of people before we have the privilege of praying for our spouse's career and friends and self-confidence and all of that. And just when you said that, I love that you're reconciled, but I think relationships are work. And that book, if you are struggling with your kids or your spouse, the Stormy O'Martin, which I love, her name is Stormy because we go through storms. But she writes about how we can go forward. And so is there something, a lesson, a wisdom with your experience that you want to share with our listeners, knowing that there are people out there that are working from home, feeling super isolated, not having relationships, living alone, working alone, being in transition, and just feeling overwhelmed? What's one first step that they could take? What's one word of wisdom that you could give them?
So if you have getting connected, it takes effort. It does. It takes effort. That's what I was, when I first moved to the Tampa market. I will tell you one thing I do like about the Tampa market, though, is that the network, especially for HR, is great. There are so many things that you can do here. I could really go out every night if I wanted to from an HR perspective. So you have to put yourself out there. There are communities for accounting, HR, like whatever field you're in. If there's community things, you could get connected at your church, like get connected, be around people. Like I get a lot of energy being around people, but then once I'm around people all day, when I get home, Annie, I'm like, I'm not answering the phone. I'm going to completely disconnect, right? But I would say you got to make the effort. It is so true. Like 9 times out of 10, it's me that has to reach out to your friends, right? It does. It takes effort. Don't give up. Don't take it personal. Right? I think when everybody thinks, well, so-and-so is not reaching back out to me, it must be something about me. It's not. People are busy. Just reach out. If you need to get connected and you're feeling alone, you don't need to be. There are so many things that you can do. If anybody is out there listening to this and they want help, I will help research whatever your interest is and get you connected, because it is really important to stay connected with people, especially in an environment, what you said, where people are working remote. That connection, I really think, has done something to us. I think we need to have it from a work to get talent into organizations, but there has to be a balance because people are missing out on that interaction. So get connected.
Whether we are an introvert or an extrovert, we still need downtime, but we still need to push ourselves to get out there and connect. Is there 3 organizations or 3 top of mind thing? So I live not too far from the Tampa area, but I know a lot of our listeners are in Florida and in the Tampa area. Are there 3 events or 3 organizations that you really love? Like if someone's in transition right now and they're like, man, I'm so lonely, I feel so disconnected, where can I start? Give me one. Is there something that you can?
Well, I like of course, the Suncoast HR or like HR Tampa. Like those are really good for all kind of levels within the HR organization, right? Those are phenomenal, especially for somebody new in the area. For more executive types, I do like Lonely at the Top, right? There's a few other groups that get together where it's kind of more of a C-suite. So there is a couple different places where you can like reach out to others if you're wanting like a social aspect of it, or if you're wanting to learn more. There's Tenacious, which is also another HR kind of community, right, where people can get together. But there are, like, for accounting, like I said, there's finance. I really love the Tampa Bay area. And again, this is where I'm at. So that's what I know best, that there are so many things where people are getting together like on a weekly basis to come together from like a common perspective, that I think that it's easier than you think. That's all I want to say. And then also for me too, like I make connections right through my church. So I have like a group of people I do stuff with there. And then I go to Burn Boot Camp. So now I have a connection with people that like to do that are there, right? So I think that there's tons of different ways where people can get connected.
Awesome. I love it. So, some people, Jessica, that are in your situation are like, I'm in transition. I've applied for 2 jobs. You know what? I'm going to sleep until 9:30, 10. I have no reason to get out of bed. I want to know, how do you keep soaring? How do you say, whatever it is, I'm getting up at 4 and I'm getting going. How do you keep soaring above the disruption inside your life?
Okay, so I am a morning person. Have been my whole life. Even when I was, in college, my sorority sisters knew if I was not out of the house by 8 o'clock, I was going to bed. Okay, so I've always been that girl. But I have to do it. I am very much like routine, and just for me personally, if it doesn't happen in the morning, it's not going to happen. So I know, like, I check like my LinkedIn. I have like, all my postings of positions coming to me. There's a handful of people in the Tampa Bay area that I'm strongly like connected with. So I like literally have it on a schedule, right? Where I wake up in the morning, I'm checking like my positions. Is there anything that I need to be applying for? Is there anything I need to follow up with? When's the last time that I've reached out with the people that are in my network that are also helping me find other jobs? And then I will literally go through my LinkedIn because I've got, like you, I've got a million people out there, and I will reach out to somebody random, send them my resume and be like, hi, I am currently in transition. If you think of anything that potentially would be a good fit for me, please let me know. Send them my resume. Sometimes you hear nothing, but I do that in a morning. I set aside like a certain amount of time. It doesn't have to be all day. You could literally just set aside like an hour. And then after that hour, I was productive, and it just makes you feel like you did something, right? I mean, like literally, like just take little steps and do something every day.
Something every day. I love it.
Something every day.
Yes, something every day. That might be the name of this episode. Something
Something
every day.
every day. Yes.
I thank you. You've shared so much wisdom and great ideas. If you have any links you want to share to different groups you're part of or different things in our comments, please do that, Jessica, because we know people are listening, and whether we're in transition right now or disruption, we're going to be in the future. If we're not right now, life happens. So let's keep staying connected. Do something every day. What's the best way, Jessica, for people to connect with you and get to know you?
So the best way to connect with me is LinkedIn. It is definitely the social platform that I visit daily multiple times, and I do respond quickly. So if you would like to reach out to me for anything, have questions, just want to connect, add somebody additional to your network, that is the best way to find me.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being our guest, for sharing so much wisdom. Thank you to our listeners for being with us once again this week at H3 TV, where we spread hope, health, and happiness through the disruptions of our lives. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you so much, Annie. Bye, everybody.